when I first stumbled across a mysterious reference to the Russian sleep experiment on an obscure Soviet-era website, I brushed it off as creative fiction. An urban legend meant to spook the web's more gullible denizens. But the scattered accounts I uncovered all referred to the same horrific 1940s experiment kept utterly secret, in which Russian researchers deprived prisoners of sleep for 30 days inside a sealed lab environment. The aim was apparently to test a stimulant gas that could eliminate soldiers' need for sleep on the battlefield. But the experiment's outcome was darker than any sci-fi dystopia. According to leaked data, the test subjects were political prisoners promised freedom in exchange for participation. But as the days of forced wakefulness passed, the men's mental states decayed rapidly. They reportedly became prone to violence, paranoia, and sadism, savagely attacking each other while pleading to be let out. The manic laughter echoing from their chamber only amplified the researchers' unease. After 9 days of no sleep at all, the captive men began exhibiting devolution to a primordial state. They tore apart their cramped living quarters, smeared themselves in blood and fecal matter, and howled like rabid animals. The deranged test subjects no longer seemed recognizably human. The researchers realized in horror that even when sleep was finally allowed again, these 5 men could never be brought back from the abyss of insanity. But it would only get worse. As described in scattered reports, an airborne sedative was pumped into the chamber on day 15 in hopes of calming the manic frenzy. Once the prisoners fell unconscious, researchers entered cautiously in hazmat gear. They wanted to mitigate the damage and determine if the ghastly experiment could be salvaged in any way. But the horror had only just begun. The instant the heavy door swung open, the subjects sprang upright and attacked the researchers like feral predators chasing prey. The crazed, blood-soaked men could not be contained or reasoned with anymore. The lab quickly devolved into a house of gore as they eviscerated scientists and ripped each other apart in psychotic rampages, reportedly while laughing hysterically the entire time. Russian military units were finally able to penetrate the facility and fatally shoot all 5 test subjects, more beast than human by this point. But not before several more lives were claimed by the unfathomable evil the experiment had unleashed. In the aftermath, the Kremlin utterly buried all traces of the deadly research. But rumors of the doomed sleep study swirled covertly through scientific circles over the decades since. Of course, official records of these events do not seem to exist. I found only distorted second-hand accounts on dubious sites. Yet the core story rings chillingly true. It aligns closely with highly unethical Soviet research practices of the era aimed at turning men into perfect communist citizens regardless of moral cost. And the result does appear to be a literal descent into madness and evil. Even if the grisly details are sensationalized, the implications are no less profound. Sleep could be the fragile constraint that stops our individual darkness from spilling loose each night. And we are always closer than we dare acknowledge to the feral forces lurking within humanity's psyche, waiting to be unshackled. Science seeks progress by pushing boundaries. But some lines are not meant to be crossed. Whichever Soviet scientists orchestrated this real-life horror story decades ago, they paid a heavy price for venturing into realms never designed for mortal minds to witness. The depraved violence described mimics biblical, almost demonic possession. But the truth is that men need not be possessed to indulge their darkest impulses. Immorality sleeps within us all, sedated by moral constructs that dissolve without rest. Of course, I cannot speak conclusively to the credibility of these disturbing accounts. Records may be intentionally scattered to diminish their impact. But the core implications resonate. We each have a monster lurking in the deepest pits of psyche, held in check only by our frail compulsions toward light. And though the Soviet sleep experiment lives on as myth, the grim revelation of humanity's brittle limitations is all too real. So take care. A thin veil of sanity preserves our ordered world. But beyond it, chaos waits dreaming, searching for cracks to creep through. It nearly crossed over completely in that sealed underground lab, if legend is to be believed. We never can be certain what ancient evils await discovery on the other side of progress. But Pandora's boxes, once unsealed, can rarely be closed again. Perhaps some nightmares only exist to remind us of what fragile constructs peace and reason are. And that, after darkness falls within our minds, the light of dawn may never find us again. If nothing else, tales of the doomed Russian researchers and prisoners serve as a parable. A warning against the hazards of tampering in realms we cannot comprehend, yet which surely can comprehend us, and grip us tightly in their unfathomable claws if given the chance. So as you drift off tonight, say a prayer of thanks for the sedating safety of sleep. The thin veil it provides may be all that shields humanity from ourselves, and the ravenous forces circling hungrily beyond the borderlands of sanity, seeking a crack to slither through, into the vacuum where our nightmares are realized. And our most ancient fears, worn weary over eons, can once again rise snarling to greet us.